All right, we're moving right along. Now, one of the things that one of our panelists just said is, if you heard anything I said today, come find me. That's part of what this underground is, right? We're poking a lot of these topics, and then let's continue these conversations throughout the week and continue our action throughout the week. There are still some people that, if you do happen to have a seat that opens up next to you, just give a wink to somebody that wants to maybe come in and sit down. So let's welcome to the stage our next panel. It takes two perspectives. First, we have Jay Mossman from AKUVO and Rafal Matusiak from NACSCU in Poland. Come on up. We also have Dr. Brian Branch, the Via Stella Foundation, and Brett Thompson from the Wisconsin Credit Union League. And finally, we have Mike Reuter from the Worldwide Foundation and Alex Michaud from True Sky Credit Union. And let's go to video. All right, this is going to be a great, it takes two sides of the perspective conversation. So I want to start with Jay and Rafal. The war in Ukraine has gone into the third year. Rafal, what's the current status on the front lines?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. For 2 years, thanks to Susan's kindness, I have the opportunity to share with you information from Ukraine and from Poland. Let me start with news from a front line. The Russians are pushing west, unfortunately. Continuation of the drama in Avdiivka, that's what we can see now. And although the city fell, the Avdiivka battle is still continued. The Russians take advantage for the Ukrainians withdraw and maintain the operational initiative in the war theater. The Ukrainian armed forces are faced with the task of maintaining the defense line at Orlivka. This is a little bit more to west side. Avdiivka fell on February 17 this year. The 10-year defense of the fortress city ended. The last hours of the fighting for Avdiivka were cover battles that allowed Ukrainian troops to break out of the possible hell of encirclement. The situation is changed. Among others, because of lack of ammunition. From the political scene, Russia is trying to demonstrate that it can take offensive actions against NATO countries. At the same time, it is aware that support for Ukraine is increasing and therefore tries to neutralize the threat arising from observation missions. The data collected by AWACS and similar technologies is important not only for Ukraine but also for allies and may allow it to gain an advantage in the conflict. The Paris conference, which focused on the second anniversary of the Russian invasion and continued support for Kiev, ended. NATO members also discussed cooperation in the reconstruction of Ukraine and the potential sending the allies' troops to Ukraine. Immediately after the conference, Polish President Andrzej Duda gave a short statement on the issues discussed. It was a very long meeting. We touched on a whole range of topics. When it comes to conclusions, the most important one is that I hope that in the near future together we will be able to prepare significant supplies of ammunition for Ukraine, because that is the most important thing here. You can't fight against anybody without ammunition. That's it for a political and military situation. And what does this mean for us? This means that our common help and commitment are still needed. On a completely spontaneous initiative and based on our selfless commitment, we organized the Via Stella Foundation, and through it we provided a numerous help to Ukraine and refugees who found shelter in my homeland, Poland. This help would not be possible without you. Thanks to your commitment, your generosity, and your sensitivity to the suffering others. Thank you very much for this. From ambulances, medical equipment, and power generators, through blankets, sleeping bags, medicines, binoculars, sleeping mats, and food, to medical assistance for women in Poland, support for school children, care for over 100 orphans from Ukraine, and support in providing apartments rentals for refugees, and many, many other forms of aid. Tens of thousands activities, formalities, purchases, contracts, customs, clearance, organization and transport, and other necessary activities to provide assistance. Not for applause, but to help, because that's who we are, credit union people. Together we can help to win this war for Ukraine. With such positive energy and such large movement, no Russian scum has a chance to win. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also, before I turn it over to Jay right now, but I also want to give a special shout out, and let's give a round of applause to all of our international credit union friends that are in the room today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rafal. Jay, why support Via Stella? Why do you personally get involved?
Well, when we first met the last time, a couple years ago, I think it touched my heart. And this is on?
Yep, it's on. Just
okay.
A little closer.
And so I said to Rafal at a break, I said, "What do you guys need?" And he said, "We really need ambulances." So I said, "I'll tell you what, we'll buy one of those ambulances for you." And then I said to Susan, "Why don't we challenge this group to raise even more funds?" And we set a goal. And I said, "My wife and I will match that goal in addition to buying the ambulance." And I think that was something that we felt we were capable of doing because we were part of the credit union movement. I had a company you guys bought services from, and we were able to sell that company and raise capital. And so why not put that capital back into the goodness of what we believe in? I took that back to our company, and Lauren, who's our marketing person, I'll embarrass her. Lauren, raise your hand back there. Yeah, she doesn't like to be embarrassed. She said she was she had a dream. I guess she's going to be embarrassed I even said that. She had a dream that I was going to be ill and not be here today, and she was going to have to sit up here. No. She was so glad to see me, and I said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well today." And she's like, "Oh." But she took that idea and created a match to challenge the credit union industry with a post called Just One Post, hashtag Just One Post. And we put it out there, and we said as a company, we'll match what we'll do. So, being able to contribute back was important, and it all comes back to being part of the credit union movement and the capital that is raised from that for companies like ourselves, to be able to help Rafal.
Thank you so much. Brian and Brett, if we transition to you, when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, credit unions had to close. Brian, tell us more about how credit unions were impacted in that moment.
So Brett and I would like to share the story of Bashir Khan with you. And Bashir worked with us to introduce credit unions in Afghanistan. He helped develop an Islamic finance model for credit unions that we were able to share with other countries as well. And Bashir became the CEO of the National Association for Credit Unions in Afghanistan. But then Bashir and his family experienced persecution as a result. When the Taliban took over in 2021, they shut down the credit unions, and Bashir went into hiding for more than a year. Eventually, he was detained by the Taliban. They took all of his personal savings, his family savings, they took his family home, and he had to borrow from relatives to pay a ransom to be released. One of the great things about working with credit unions in a time of crisis is how credit unions provide a pathway to safety for victims. That's what Rafal and the Polish credit unions do in Ukraine and Poland. When we had worked in Afghanistan, Bashir had watched over us and saw that we remained safe. So now it was our turn to bring Bashir and his family to safety. Started as a small group of friends and former colleagues that had worked with Bashir. We applied for, we advocated for visas for Bashir and his family. His dream was to come to America and work in a U.S. credit union. Eventually, 2 years, a bit more than 2 years after the fall of Kabul, Bashir and his family received their visas. And then Brett, with Brett's leadership, the Wisconsin Credit Union League committed to provide airplane tickets to bring Bashir and his family of 7 to Madison, Wisconsin. And as Bashir's story was told, for example, by SU Today, over 100 people in the credit union system contributed to help provide food, clothing, housing, household goods to give this family a new start. When we asked Bashir what it was he wanted the most, he said, "I want to have an education opportunity for my daughters, age 11, 13, 16, because they had been devastated when the Taliban forbid girls from going to school. Local teachers joined the network and had these children registered in school before they arrived. People sent resources to help this family have a new start. One person wrote and said, "You're bringing this guy to Wisconsin in September?" and sent winter coats. So this is one of the other great qualities about credit unions in times of crisis, is that credit unions are for more than simply providing relief. They're about establishing sustainability. So today, Bashir works in a credit union in Madison, Summit Credit Union, in a job that he loves, and he says, this is like what we tried to do in Afghanistan. We help the community, we help women, we help working people. His children are some of the most motivated children to go to school. And Bibi, his wife, who never was able to get an education in Afghanistan, never was in a class now, took classes in English, and she's very proud that she can write a few English words on paper. So this is the credit union covenant. This is the credit union bond. Someone who helped his community through credit unions, and the credit union system reached out to this family and brought them to safety. It gave them a new start. And many of you here today helped in that effort, so thank you. Brett.
Thank you. And Brett, Brian just described a lot of the things that you've already done. Why did you step in to help?
Well, I can assure you the day Brian called and asked us to step in, I did not have on my to-do list assist Khan families escape to safety. And so it certainly was out of the ordinary, not the kind of thing that comes to my desk on a regular basis. But the more I thought about it, the more it was familiar. First of all, we had a long-standing relationship with the World Council and its efforts throughout the world. We had participated in a partnership agreement with our colleagues in the Dominican Republic, all of that work supported by the World Council of Credit Unions. In addition, I had known Brian for a long time, had a lot of respect for the work he did. Our children went to the same high school, so that brought a sense of familiarity to it as well. But as Brian mentioned, the real key for me was the fact that Bashir Khan had this dream of moving to Wisconsin, relocating his family to safety, and putting his children in school. It really wasn't a question of if we should engage, but how can we effectively engage? Brian, in many ways, kind of soft-pedaled one of the issues that had a huge impact on me, and that is the family was, to some degree, not in a safe place as they were making their way out of the situation in Afghanistan into Islamabad. So the conventional ways of dealing with this that we as credit unions like to do is, we'll raise money, we'll contact people, we'll get all of our friends behind this, and that would have worked, except for the fact that, as Brian had explained to me, when the visa comes, they need to go. And they had waited a long time for the visa. So there really wasn't an opportunity to do things the way we would typically do them back home. We needed to commit the funds to make sure they could get on a plane and get to safety. So we did.
Thank you so much. Mike, if we take it a step big picture and talk about what to you is the global connection?
Well, the World Council is made up of, the World Council, the global credit union system is 403 million members strong, 87,000 credit unions across over 40 countries, across 6 continents. Woo! Everyone in this room, whether you know it or not, is a member of that special global credit union system. Yeah. And I think sometimes in our fast-paced environment and work, in our busy lives, we can, obviously everyone's mission in their own respective organizations is to focus in on their local communities and support their members locally. And I think it's easy to forget that there's a real opportunity for each and every one of us to step out of that box for a moment or for a period of time and do global good. Supporting Bashir's family, supporting credit unions in Poland who are bringing in Ukrainian refugees, supporting our Caribbean colleagues when an earthquake or a hurricane strikes. All our US colleagues have stepped up time and time again, year after year after year in the support of the global credit union system. And really what our place to serve within that ecosystem is to build bridges, to build a global bridge of connectivity, of deeper understanding, of networking, of perhaps solution sharing and solving amongst credit unions, amongst CUSOs, amongst leagues, amongst associations. We talk a lot, DEs talk about the credit union onion. Well, really the layers of our global system is the layers of an onion. And there's so much opportunity to build intentional, long-standing, sustainable bridges of connectivity that don't just build a network, but it also provides opportunities to solve specific solutions. And we're really proud at the World Council and the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions to build those bridges, to play that role. And a lot of our credit union supporters, global champions that we call them now, have really seen an opportunity to serve beyond their own local communities. True Sky Credit Union out of Oklahoma City is just one of many credit unions that have been willing to leverage time, resources, and investment to help their global credit union colleagues solve either one or more challenges. It's also, from the U.S. credit union side, it's a value proposition to give their board, their staff, their team members international credit union engagement opportunities. And so we're truly proud to kind of double down on that position within the global credit union system, to provide that level of service, not just to credit unions here in the United States, but obviously to foster long-term, sustainable, healthy relationships within our international colleagues as well.
Thank you so much. So I have a 2-part question because I was taking notes and I just have it all for you, Alex, if that's okay. Sure. 1, the key to success, and 2, how do we get our boards engaged?
Well, if I knew the answer to the second question, it'd just be a lot easier. But, 4 years ago, I was new to the credit union space. And so I was going through the DE program, and as I was coming out of that program, I said, okay, well, I got to think of a project, got to come up with something to do. We just started talks with Mike and Global Bridges, and so I shot Mike an email after a meeting, and I said, hey, are there any initiatives that we could focus on that I could, because initially I said, well, I'll get some of the CIOs together from our chapter, our league, and we'll help some developing credit unions, around us and engage in some projects. And after talking with Mike, man, things grew quickly. We started an engagement with the credit union Barbados, and it really took form quickly. And it came through the process of whether it was working groups or going back and forth between the organizations and their countries. It really, we found out that we had shared mission and values, whether that's community empowerment, financial inclusivity, or just excellence in member service. What interested me, what was surprising to me, is we learned just as much, if not more, in working with these credit unions in other countries than I'm sure they did from us. And so, one thing that definitely spurred, you talk about board engagement and community engagement. We got to tell our story with the Global Bridges program to our credit unions around us, and I'm hoping that spurred some momentum there, and I'm hoping to see that continue to strengthen the U.S. credit union movement. And I was talking to Mike and backstage, and by that I mean that hallway right there, about my 2-year-old daughter Cora, and we were just kind of going back and forth, and I really was thinking just now, man, we've seen the number of credit unions dwindle in the United States over the past couple of decades. I want to see when she's my age or younger, I want to see that the number of credit unions in the United States grow. I want to see more empowerment. I want to see more engaged credit unions, and I would challenge each and every one of you. I really didn't know what the experience would be like entering into that with Global Bridges, and we're already looking at our next couple of projects with them. And so I would challenge each and every one of you to reach out to Mike, reach out to that team, get involved, because you'll learn things that you really didn't know or think would be possible, and it's just such an engaging experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. I appreciate your commitment to the international community. Thank you very much. Let's give them one more round of applause.